Check this out, Beast and Raider here, bringing you another Commander deck tech. Today we're looking at Thrasta, Tempest Roar. This is not your typical mono green stompy build. This is kind of a combination of your classic elf ball deck merged with dinosaurs. So we're going to be focused on casting as many spells in one turn as possible to get as much value, whether it be making lots of creatures, drawing lots of cards, and basically taking over the game as quickly as possible. So, let's get right into it. Thrasta Tempest Roar himself will cost 3 colorless mana less to cast for each other spell you cast that turn, which is going to synergize very well with all these lower costing elf spells, but also it'll have haste, trample, and will trample over planeswalkers because the big scary dinosaur doesn't like planeswalkers. Thrasta himself will have hexproof as long as it entered the battlefield that turn. So, let's get right into it. First up is all those creatures. So we have our Allosaurus Shepherd. This is going to be very good for us because Allosaurus Shepherd can't be countered, and she'll give the ability that every single green spell can't be countered. And if we've developed a big enough board, we can activate Allosaurus Shepherd, and every single elf we control will become a 5/5 dinosaur. And of course, we have Heritage Druid. This will allow us to have the mana we need to keep casting even more spells just by tapping 3 untapped elves. Of course, we have our Finhorn Elves, our Llanowar Elves, our Elvish Mystic. All 3 of these will activate and add 1 green mana for us. Similar to that, we have Arbor Elf. This one specifically untaps a forest. Now we have Kyrian Ranger. This has a static ability where we can return a forest back to our hand to untap a target creature. Unfortunately, we can only do this once per turn. Of course, we have Priest of Titania. This will add 1 green mana for every single elf that's on the battlefield, whether or not you own the elf or not. Now we have Seeker of Skybreak. This will allow us to untap any creature because most of our creatures are going to have activated abilities. Now we have Well-Wisher. That way we can gain enough life. That way we can defeat our opponents really quickly. Because all we do, activate this, and we can gain 1 life for each elf that's on the battlefield. Now we have Elvish Visionary. When it enters, we get to draw a card. Now we have Leaf Crowned Visionary. This is an elf lord, but whenever we cast an elf spell, we can pay 1 green, and if we do, we get to draw a card. Now we have Azuri Renegade Leader. This is a game-ending elf. We can protect our elves by paying a green to regenerate it. More importantly, we can just dump a bunch of green mana into Azuri, and all our elves will get +3/+3 and trample. We're kind of making our own Crater Hoof. Now we have Selvala, Heart of the Wilds. This is going to be very good for us because whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. We're going to use Selvala to add as much mana as possible when we start getting out these very large dinosaurs. Okay, now we have Eladmeri Corvectal. We get to look at the top card of our library at any time, and we can cast creature spells from the top of our library. We're going to pay 1 green, tap 2 untapped creatures, then we get to reveal a card from our hand or the top of our library. If it happens to be a creature, we get to put that on the battlefield. Unfortunately, we only get to do this once per turn. Now we have Elvish Archdruid. This is another Lord effect, but he's going to add 1 green mana for each elf we control. Now we have a big scary elf. We have Steel Leaf Champion. This is a 3-drop 5/4, but it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And if there's a very annoying artifact or enchantment, why not blow it up with Reclamation Sage? And if we need to go get more mana, we have Wood Elves. When it enters, we get to search for a forest card and put it onto the battlefield. Now we have another Lord effect. We have Imperious Perfect. We're going to use Imperious Perfect to continually make 1/1 green elf warrior tokens. That way we can generate as many elves as we need to. Now we have Viridian Shaman. This is going to enter and specifically just destroy a artifact. Now we have Dwynnin, Guiltleaf Dayan. This has reach, so it can block flyers. It's also a lord, but whenever Dwynnin attacks, we're going to gain 1 life for each elf we control. Now we have Yeva, Nature's Herald. This has flash as well. She's going to give us the ability to cast any green creature as though it had flash as well. So we can have instant speed dinosaurs, instant speed whatever elves we want. Now we have Beast Whisperer. Anytime we cast a creature spell, we get to draw a card. Now we have Immaculate Magistrate. She's going to do a very good job at making every single elf we control even bigger, just by activating her and putting a +1 counter on each elf we control. Okay, let's get into the dinosaurs. We have Topiary Stomper. This is a good blocker because it's a 4/4 with vigilance, but when it enters, we get to search our library for a basic land and put it on the battlefield tapped. Unfortunately, Topiary Stomper can't attack or block unless we control 7 or more lands. But we're going to be ramping pretty quickly, so that's not going to be an issue. Now we have Deathgorge Scavenger. When this enters or attacks, we can exile any card from any graveyard, and if it happened to be a creature card, we get to gain 2 life. But if it was a non-creature, then we get to put a +1 counter on Deathgorge Scavenger. This is just a very efficient way to deal with your opponent's cards that are in their graveyard in case they're trying to flashback a spell or reanimate a very large creature. We're just going to eat it with Deathgorge Scavenger. Now we have good old Thrashing Brontodon. This is a good blocker, but if we need to destroy a artifact or enchantment, we can just block with it, then activate it, then destroy the artifact or enchantment. Now we have Runic Armasaur. This is going to trigger whenever a opponent activates a ability of a creature or land that is not a mana ability. And when they do, we get to draw a card. Now we have Shifting Ceratops. This has protection from blue, and it can't be countered. But all we have to do is activate it, and then we get our choice of it gaining trample, haste, or reach. And of course, we have the big scary Carnage Tyrant. It can't be countered. It's a 7/6 with trample and hexproof. Now we have an even bigger dinosaur. We have Tyrannix Rex. This one can't be countered as well. Has ward 4, has haste and trample, but more importantly, it has toxic 4. Of course, we have the OG Galta Primal Hunger. This is just a very, very large dinosaur with trample, and its mana cost will cost less, where X is the total number of creatures we control. Seems pretty good. Now we have the Tarrasque. This is a 10/10. It'll have haste and ward 10 as long as we cast it. But whenever the Tarrasque attacks, it'll fight a target creature that player controls. So we're going to use the Tarrasque to kill off all our opponent's creatures just by attacking. Now we got some non-dinosaur creatures and non-elf creatures. but they're going to synergize very well with everything we're doing. So we have Seedborn Muse. We're going to untap every single permanent we control during each other player's untap step. Now we have the big ape. We have Kagla, the Titan ape. When this enters the battlefield, it'll fight a creature we don't control. And whenever Kagla attacks, we can destroy a artifact or enchantment they control. And of course, we have Regal Force. When this enters the battlefield, we get to draw a card for each green creature we control. And with no introduction, we have Craterhoof. We're going to use this to end the game very quickly. We are running one Planeswalker, which is going to help us. So we have Vivian, Champion of Wilds. This will allow us to cast creature spells as though they had flash. That's pretty much the main premise of this, is generate a board during your opponent's turn. That way we can just attack them and end the game as quickly as possible. But we can +1 her. She'll enter with 4 loyalty, and until our next turn, up to 1 target creature gains vigilance and reach. Or we can -2 her to look at the top 3 cards of our library. We get to exile one of those face down. The rest go on the bottom. And for as long as that card remains exiled, we can cast that card if it's a creature. Okay, let's get into the enchantments. There's only 3. But they're very powerful enchantments that are going to synergize very well with what we're doing. So we have Elven Chorus. This will allow us to look at the top card of our library at any time, and we can cast creature spells from the top of our library. But more importantly, every single creature will have a activated ability of adding 1 mana of any color. Now we have Awakening. This will allow us to untap all creatures and lands during each other player's untap step. And of course, we have Concordant Crossroads. This will ensure that every single creature will have haste and can activate its abilities the moment it enters the battlefield. Okay, let's get into the artifacts. We have our Soul Ring. We have our Emerald Medallion. This is going to help us by reducing the cost of our green spells. Now we need some protection. So we have Lightning Greaves and Swiftfoot Boots. This will give the equipped creature either Hexproof or Shroud and have haste. Now we have Ronus's Monument. This will also reduce the cost of our green creatures when we cast them. But whenever we cast a creature spell, creatures we control. But whenever we cast a creature spell, target creature will get +2/+2 and trample. Now we have Sword of the Perunes. This one will allow us to untap and tap creatures that we really need to. And of course, we have Staff of Domination. This will give us a lot of options, whether to gain life, untap another target creature, tap a target creature. If we need to lock down a opponent's creature from attacking us, we can just tap it down. Or we can just draw cards. Okay, let's get into the instants. We have our Court of Calling. That way we can go get whatever creature we want and put it on the battlefield at instant speed. Now we have Squall Line. This is going to deal with all our opponent's creatures that have flying while protecting our creatures that don't have flying. And by doing that, we're going to deal X damage to each creature with flying and each player. And just to make a certain creature even bigger, we have Might of Oaks. And to protect everything that we have Heroic Intervention. This will give all our permanents hexproof and indestructible until the end of turn. And if we really need to deal with a very problematic permanent, we have Beast Within. That way we can just destroy it. Giving our opponents a 3/3 isn't going to matter too much because chances are our creatures are going to be a lot bigger than a 3/3. Now, to deal with artifacts and enchantments, we have Force of Vigor. Okay, let's get into the sorceries. Most of these are just ways to put as much lands on the battlefield as possible. So we have Nature's Lore. We get to search for any forest card and put it onto the battlefield. Similar to that, we have 3 visits. To get as many forests on the battlefield as possible, we have Cultivate. We also have Kadama's Reach. Both of these do the same thing. We get to search for 2 basic lands. One goes on the battlefield tapped, and the other goes into our hand. And in case we just want to draw cards, we have Harmonize. 4 mana, we get to draw 3. Now we have some sorceries that are going to synergize with what we're doing or deal with our opponent's stuff. So we have Hurricane. This will deal X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Now we have Green Sun Zenith. That way we can go get any green creature in our entire deck and put it on the battlefield. And if we've developed a big enough board, we have Triumph of the Hordes. Every single creature we control will get +1/+1, Trample, and Infect. That way we can end the game very quickly. Now we have Finale of Devastation. We get to search our library or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less, and we get to put that on the battlefield. But if X was 10 or more, all our creatures will gain +X and haste. Chances are we're just going to go get Craterhoof Behemoth with this and make all our creatures very large and have haste and basically end the game as quickly as possible. Okay, let's get into the land base. This is a very straightforward land base. We have Castle Garenbrig. This will add a lot of mana. Just by activating this, we get to add 6 green mana, but we can only use that mana for creature spells. So that's not really an issue. Now we have Lair of the Hydra. This will just become a very large creature depending on how much mana we dump into Lair of the Hydra. And because most of our creatures are going to have a lot of green mana symbols, we have Nykthos Shrine to Nyx. For 2 mana, we're going to add a certain amount of mana equal to our devotion. So we have the cycling lands. So we have Tranquil Thicket and Slippery Karst. Now we have a very, very powerful one. We have Wirewood Lodge. For 1 green, this will allow us to untap a target elf. Now we have some basic land search. So we have Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. I like these better than the traditional fetch lands because we don't need to pay life. Now we have War Room. I like War Rooms in monocolored decks because we're not going to pay that much life just to draw a card. And in case our opponents decide to steal all their stuff, we can get it all back with Homeward Path. And if our opponents have certain lands that are really going to mess with us, just blow them up with Tectonic Edge or Ghost Quarter, such as Mazavith. And we have 23 forests. And that was the Commander deck for Thrasta, Tempest Roar. I really hope you guys enjoyed this elf ball dinosaur build. This is a very fun mono green deck. If you guys have any suggestions for what could speed up this build or improve the damage output, leave them in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.